All right, welcome to episode 2 of the 4 Stars 5 Teams podcast. This is being recorded January 19th of 2025, which, if you know what that meant, it meant that TikTok was going to be banned for a few hours. Yeah, no, the ban did not last a full day because apparently, tomorrow is the inauguration of President Trump, and he said that when he's sworn in, he's going to give TikTok an extension until they find a US-based buyer, which, take that how you will. But man, did a lot of people freak out. People were freaking out about this, and my question is, for the content creators on TikTok, why did some of you not do a backup on YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat? I know some did, but the majority of ones that didn't, it's kind of short-sighted. All I'm saying is, moral of the story, don't put your eggs in one basket, especially with something that was as controversial as it was like TikTok. Stuff like YouTube, that's not going away anytime soon, and if there was, I'm sure everyone would try to make a plan to move to somewhere else, because there was no way on God's green earth I was going to move from TikTok to Red Note. No, not happening, and anyone that did move to Red Note is foolish. Anyways, I've made my peace there. Man, it's been a while since the first episode, isn't it? And the state of Chicago sports, well, when your best teams are mid, something's going wrong. But we're going to get into that later. I know I planned a live stream for October where I would rank Division I FBS college football uniforms, but unfortunately that didn't happen because everything was just glitching out, and the stream couldn't even stay on. Like, I got cut off at, I don't even remember when exactly I got cut off, but the stream connection was so poor, and will I ever retry it with a different setup? I just have my laptop, and if the audio sounds different, it's because I'm doing it in the office instead of my bedroom like I normally do, because the last time I tried to record a podcast, my microphone kept disconnecting, and I really didn't like how it turned out, so figured, I'll wait. So the reason that I decided to do a live stream ranking of college football uniforms, well, I had already set up the different leagues for September, October, November, and I had a high school buddy of mine, Colin, who's a big Kansas State fan. He DM'd me on Instagram saying that he wanted me to rank the Big 12 college football uniforms, and I thought, well, why don't I do that for every single conference? And then I'm like, well, how do I do it? Do I do FBS? Do I do Power 4? Is it 4.5 since the Pac-12 only had 2 teams? I don't know. If I had to do worst college football uniforms, for Illinois, it would be their throwbacks they had this year to the 1920s. Wow. They wore them against Michigan this past season. I watched some of that game, and when they were on screen, they were laughable. They were absolutely laughable. I've gone over this, but most designs from football's earliest days, from like the 20s to the 40s, don't translate to a modern template, and this is one of them. And it's similar to the Bears throwbacks that they wore in 1994 because, well, that's where they derived their look from. But in some ways, with the Illinois version, it's better and worse. What's better? Well, I'll take the graphics of a leather helmet instead of a blank blue helmet any day of the week. I like that the front number is actually in its proper place rather than on one of the sides just tacked on at the last second. Now, the negatives. I don't like the back. There's just a block number, and that's it. I guess it explains why the Bears version, on the back, it just looks like a normal version of their jerseys, because there wasn't anything on the back. Why not have the striping continue? Would it be inaccurate? Sure, but who cares? That was 100 years ago. You can at least improve it. It doesn't have to be a one-to-one exact throwback. There's throwbacks out there that do take some liberties, and for some reason they just didn't here. And just overall, the presentation of it, I can't take this seriously. They won the game, but God, just not for anyone's eyes. And I guess while we're on uniforms, when I was watching the college football playoff between Indiana and Notre Dame, I noticed Indiana had small last names, kind of like the MLB jerseys from last season, except Indiana's maker is Adidas and not Nike. And anyone else notice on the Notre Dame home jerseys that the last names were in gold, but not like tan trying to be gold. It was actually shiny and reflective gold, and wow, were those hard to see on TV. Maybe seeing it in person, it looks neat, but the shiny gold, it didn't do anything for me on TV, although it's the best version of gold I think I've ever seen on a uniform because of how chromy and reflective it is, like actual gold. And, on top of Notre Dame, speaking of which, they have been the surprise of the college football playoff, though, their victories came against a very inexperienced Indiana, Georgia without Carson Beck, and they only just got by against Penn State. Tomorrow is the national championship. I will be watching it. I'll put in what happened during it because obviously it hasn't happened at the time I'm recording this. So we'll see what happens. Will Notre Dame finally win a national championship, or will they just keep proving everyone right that they're not ready for the big time? They should go to a conference. Blah, 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 blah. All the cliche talking points when it comes to Notre Dame. I'm not a Notre Dame fan, but I also don't hate them. They're just kind of neutral to me. My brother roots for he's a Notre Dame fan, so there's that. They're just there to me. Okay, it's after the national championship, and Notre Dame lost. I will say they did try to mount a comeback, but honestly, Ohio State was definitely on a bigger revenge tour than the Irish were after they lost to Michigan the season finale. I mean, for crying out loud, they demolished Tennessee. They absolutely pummeled Oregon in the Rose Bowl. Like, Oregon was the number one team in the nation? No, definitely not. And then they took out Texas in the Cotton Bowl. Ohio State was definitely the better equipped team. Now, can Notre Dame possibly go back next year and win it all? Maybe. They definitely look a lot better than they have in previous years, but the narratives still live on. Sorry, Irish. Now, when it came to the calendar year of 2024, so much determination got me through ranking every NFL, NHL, and NBA uniform. Yeah, MLB, that was just 1 month. Those 3 leagues, 3 consecutive months. That's a lot of videos. That was over 90. And I didn't get an exact count. I'll probably put it up on the screen, but over 100 videos made this year, including shorts. That's impressive. I'm really impressed by the amount of output that I put out this year. Put out? I'm very impressed with myself. I do treat this as a part-time job, but I really pat myself on the back for putting out what I can. Yeah, I made a promise that I would do those month-long marathons, and I was able to do it. I didn't think I was going to. I thought some would get screwed up, or I would feel like I'm done. I can't keep doing this anymore. The next one will be like a month or 2 later. Now, I've been also thinking of the type of stuff that I want to put out this year. One of the things I'm thinking of doing is reviewing the jerseys that I own. I've got a closet full of jerseys. Might as well put it to good use, right? Especially since I did have some friends of mine DM me and say that the one video that I did on fake NBA jerseys was very helpful when it came to distinguishing good from bad. And I've got a lot of jerseys in my closet. Might as well show them off and give my thoughts. And also throw in what to look out for when it comes to fakes on eBay, because majority of my collection does come from eBay and Facebook Marketplace. And like anything, you always have to watch out with what you're getting, because no one wants to get scammed. No one wants to get scammed out of however many dollars it may cost. If it's $5, fine, whatever. But if it's $50, I'd be mad too. Though another thing that's come up is doing best of lists. I've already done, every league's team's worst uniform, but the best of, that's difficult. I think what makes doing best of harder is I don't want to just do mostly home jerseys, because for me that's where the best of a team usually lies. There are exceptions. There are road jerseys I think are better and alternates, but majority of them would be home jerseys. And I guess it's also one thing to say whether or not a team set is good or bad on their own, but choosing one jersey as the best in their lineup ever, it's another beast. Now, does that completely rule out me ever doing that in the future? No. But for now, I'm on a bit of a writer's block for that one. And I've also had people comment for me to update every league team's worst uniforms. I am thinking about doing that in 2027 when those videos reach 5 years old, because there has been stuff that's popped up, like that Washington Nationals alternate jersey, that pullover, that is definitely the worst in their history. So that would be a good update. I have started keeping tabs on worst jerseys that have popped up for various teams, but of course, like anything, that can change. It is 2 years from now until 2027 after all, so we'll see what happens. Now, like anything, there are uniforms that I have changed my mind on. Yeah, I said in my MLB videos this past spring, last spring. Oh God, I'm losing track of time. I did say I didn't mind the Diamondbacks doing the Sedona red and teal, but after one season passing of it, they should have just stuck to purple, especially that Sedona red alternate. Oh, it was starting to grow on me, but as the season went on, because of course, I uploaded those videos right at the beginning of the season. As the season went on, I'm just like, this sucks. They should have just gone back to purple. Especially now that the Coyotes aren't around anymore, so there's no other team to match. Because that's kind of why they changed to Sedona red, tan, and black to match the Coyotes. Well, the Coyotes are no more, so what's the point of still having their color scheme? And another thing, the Lions. Number one, the NFC playoffs go through Detroit. One and done. Same old Lions. What about the Bears? Shut up. You're a poverty franchise, and your uniforms suck. They suck with matching pants. When the Lions uniforms have different colored pants, even white on blue, they look good. When you do blue on blue and white on white, it looks like crap. Especially since there's no stripes on the blue pants or the white pants, but there's stripes on the silver pants. So what the hell? I don't care if it's some good luck thing. That's a load of crap. You're not Seattle. You can't pull it off. You're not even the Colts when it comes to the road jersey either. You're not even Carolina, so put on the opposite colored pants. Maybe you'll do better in the playoffs next year, because you will make the playoffs next year. How good you'll be? Probably nowhere near as good as this season. Anyways. Oh, man. All three NFC North teams. Oh, man, everyone made the playoffs except the Bears. Each one was one and done. Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit. Hilarious. One little update. I was going through the r/baseball uni subreddit, and someone posted one of the Astros jerseys from 2000 to 2012. It was specifically the brick red alternate. I had no idea that the name was chain stitched on. Anyone else? Astros, and by extension Houston, on all the jerseys that said Houston on them, is chain stitched like the Cardinals are and the Phillies were. So if you're ever going to get an Astros jersey from 2000 to 2012, forget the replica jerseys. That's just stacked twill. Find an authentic jersey that's got some chain stitching and turn that into your Bagwell or BGO or Roger Clemens, I guess, or whomever. Those are the jerseys that for that generation of Astros jersey to look for, at least in my eyes. Now, Mitchell & Ness has improved their NHL jerseys. The blue line jerseys were jokes. The logos and numbers, it was just shaped patches with the details printed on, and they charged $200 for something that was done as cheaply as humanly possible. I do not know a single person that said anything positive about that. I saw some of them in store. I saw the Chris Chelios ones. I saw the Mighty Ducks ones. Also Ovechkin Capitals, Gretzky Kings, and Gretzky Rangers, which it was the Liberty jersey, but colored like the RR2 instead of in the navy and darker red of the original, which, what was up with that? And I was like, I would never pay full price for these. $40 at Marshalls, Ross, or TJ Maxx, maybe. But I would probably strip them completely and find the layered logos and, of course, get it customized with a proper kit instead of this Reebok shoulder patch shit. Just inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. Now, what replaced Blue Line was Power Play, and it's improved, but I've got some qualms, particularly with the Blackhawks jerseys. I've seen the Chris Chelios black jersey and a Jonathan Toews black jersey in person. Now, of course, I'm not going to get either of those, especially the Jonathan Toews ones. Like, why would I get a Jonathan Toews black jersey? I already own the original. And the shame of it is that the Mitchell & Ness version isn't that different from the black jersey that I own, because mine's a Reebok Premier, which means it doesn't have chain stitching on it. And for some reason, when it came to the Mitchell & Ness Blackhawks jerseys, they didn't do chain stitching. And I might put this image up. I saw it on Reddit. I'll have to find it. On the Jonathan Toews jersey, you know how with logos for jerseys, they embroider them first and then attach them to the jersey? Well, this one was the front crest was embroidered directly onto the jersey, which made it feel like a knockoff. Like, that's what knockoff manufacturers do. Like, it's so close to being good, and Mitchell & Ness just did little things to just screw it up. Honestly, if you ask me, hunt down a blank Reebok Premier jersey. You'll probably get lucky. I know I did. If you've got a blank, fine. Send it off to whomever and get it properly, professionally done. And you will have saved a lot of money compared to buying the Mitchell & Ness version. Now, are there some good Mitchell & Ness jerseys out there? Yeah, I like that Ryan Smith Oilers jersey. That one was pretty cool. And there are some rare versions of jerseys that they've got out there, like 2016 Stadium Series for the Avalanche. The Reebok versions of those are impossible to find. So in the Mitchell & Ness version, I saw Ugly Thirds look at it, and it didn't look bad. It's an acceptable substitute. CHSN, Chicago Sports Network. What a disaster. Now, my parents have Astound, which carries CHSN. However, you know who doesn't carry CHSN still? Xfinity. It is the new year, and they still haven't worked out a deal with Xfinity. You know, I'm old enough to remember when Big Ten Network couldn't get on Comcast or Xfinity when they started existing, and it was ridiculous back then. Now, I can't remember exactly how long it took for them to make a deal, but I would think over a decade after that debacle, CHSN would strike up a deal with the cable companies, including Xfinity, so their channel could be carried. Yeah, I know you can get an antenna or you can get it on Fubo, but come on. It's got to be available on everything. Otherwise, you know, you're kind of shit out of luck. Wouldn't you agree? It should have been ironed out before the launch, is all I'm trying to say. And they didn't. Now, let's get into the teams. Oh, God. Oh, this is going to be a mess. Now, when I did my first episode, I said the Cubs' best case scenario was finishing at 500, and they ended up with 83 wins. So 2 wins over 500. So around what I thought they were, which still, they ended up in second place, but Still not good enough for a playoff spot. Then, once the offseason started, Cubs said they're not going to be big spenders during the offseason, and we're out on guys like Soto, Fried, Snell, and Burns. Of course, not getting any of them. However, the Cubs did surprise me by trading for Kyle Tucker from the Astros. He's got 1 year left on his current contract, and I'm thinking, this is going to signal towards the Cubs giving him a hefty extension. And they nearly screwed that up with first offering him $15 million per year instead of the $17.5 million that Tucker and his parties wanted. But then recently, both parties settled on $16.5 million for 1 year. I really hope that Kyle Tucker is here for more than one season because he is very talented, and it would be foolish for the Cubs to just let him walk after this year. Because on the flip side, they traded Cody Bellinger to the Yankees. Now, I acknowledge that Bellinger had a down year last season, but I can't help but think this is going to bite them back considering the city's current lack of luck lately. I'm just going to say this. The Dodgers completely reset the market with Ohtani, and the Cubs should not be trying to play small ball. And I need to say this to Tom Ricketts, the owner of the Cubs. Tom, you said your goal was to break even every year, which... why? You're the Cubs. You're one of the richest teams in the league. You are, in this city, you are the most bandwagon team in this city. People all over the world buy your crap. That stadium is always sold out, even if the team is in last place. And your goal is to just break even? Where did this apathy start? If owners in baseball try to put in a salary cap, Ricketts is going to be the face of it. Which, on one hand, I do think MLB needs a salary cap. I know they won't do it because of the 1994 strike, but at least implement a salary floor to give cheap owners a kick in the rear, which is where Ricketts is leading to, which also leads us into our other baseball team, the White Sox. What a disaster. What a disaster. I rarely wore my White Sox stuff this year. I like to wear my jerseys during the summer. I hardly wore any White Sox stuff. And when they did, it was almost sort of in a mocking fashion after one of their rare wins, because 121 losses. The most by any team beating the expansion Mets. What a mess. And on top of that, Garrett Crochet was traded to Boston for prospects. Hadn't seen that one before, except the Chris Sale trade. The only two notable guys from that deal were Yohan Moncada and Michael Kopech. There were some other prospects in there, but they didn't amount to anything. They amounted to so little, they don't even have Wikipedia pages to even look them up on. Kopech remembered to stop throwing automatic home runs once he got traded to the Dodgers in the middle of last season, and Moncada peaked in 2019. Now, the prospects that the White Sox got from Boston remain to be seen. Do I have high hopes? No. They have 6 top 60 prospects, but it always seems like the White Sox have a lot of top prospects, and they never live up to their potential, with Luis Robert being a recent example. They hired Will Venable as their new manager, but it means nothing. But what does is Jerry Reinsdorf some time ago saying he's considering selling the team. Now, this also brought up all the moving to Nashville rumors, and how there's a guy named Dave Stewart, who's a good friend of Jerry Reinsdorf, and a former major leaguer himself. He played for Oakland, and he's got some backers, and the rumors are saying that he's going to buy the White Sox and move them to Nashville. Let me say something perfectly clear in plain English. No one is moving to Nashville. You really think that the White Sox are going to trade the Chicago metro area for Nashville's? It's no comparison. The Chicago metro area dwarfs Nashville's. And anyone saying that Chicago is purely a Cubs town is not from here and incredibly stupid, because that is grossly inaccurate. And not to mention, the state of Tennessee and the city of Nashville already have their hands tied with funding that Titans dome. And you really think that the city would consider funding another possibly billion-dollar stadium? They've got one in the process of being built. They're probably not going to, and Dave Stewart certainly doesn't have the funds to make that happen. So, no, the Nashville White Sox are not happening. I don't think it will. Stop saying it. All right, the Bears. if there's a positive to be said about this year, besides beating those fraudulent fudge Packers to end the year, Caleb Williams is the Bears' future. Throwing for 3,500 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, along with a really long streak of no interceptions, was really impressive. And the fact that Caleb cleared the very, very tiny hurdles of a Bears rookie quarterback, if this ends up being his worst ever season, the sky is the limit for him here. Now, did he have some bad games? Yes, there were some bad games. But frankly, if he doesn't have those bad games and turned out adequate performances, maybe he does throw for 4,000 yards. But there are some things that need to be made. That offensive line is a dumpster fire. The players are not good. They're not being coached that well. Honestly, looking at some of those plays where Caleb has taken unnecessary sacks, ones that he's not running into, I hate to sound like one of those guys, but I also go, how hard is it to teach a guy when the time comes, stand up and block a guy? Because there's so many good offensive lines out there, it's just baffling how there can be bad ones. Do I sound like Ninja talking about kicking? I don't know, maybe, but my God, does it frustrate me. It really pisses me off. I guess a good comparison with Caleb's rookie year, it's like Justin Herbert's rookie year, where he looks good, but the rest of the team doesn't. Eberflus should have been fired during the offseason, though stories were coming out of Poles wanting to fire Flus after last season and after the Patriots lost, but of course the McCaskies said no. And right now, Ryan Poles is skating on thin ice, especially with some of his really bad drafting decisions, especially when it came to neglecting the trenches for both offense and defense. Matt Eberflus was a defensive coach. During his tenure, the defense, I haven't seen a Bears defense look this bad since 2014 with that frickin' fraud Mark Trestman at the helm. 2022, the defense was like Swiss cheese, and it didn't help after guys like Roquan Smith and Robert Quinn were gone. 2023, the first half of the season, it was like that, but then Montez Sweat came, and all of a sudden, they look like a top 10 unit. And then this year, before the bye week, they look like a top 10 unit, and then after the bye week, the whole team forgot how to play football. And I don't even want to mention all the stupid shit that happened, because otherwise it's going to piss me off, and I just want to move on. Although anyone who thinks the Bears should have picked Jane Daniels, you're a crackhead, okay? This situation would not have been any better if it was Daniels to the Bears and Williams to the Redmanders, okay? And on top of that, Jane Daniels is not Patrick Mahomes in the same way Caleb Williams isn't Mitch Trubisky, okay? Put the pipe down. Although I will say this, George McCaskey makes his brother Mike McCaskey look like a genius. The only thing he shares with his grandpa is the name. George McCaskey was put into power in January 2011 after the Bears lose the NFC Championship game. What is one of the first things he does? Trade Greg Olsen to the Panthers. It's one of the worst trades ever made. Why would you get rid of Greg Olsen? There was no reason to. This past season, like these last few seasons, he's really showing he has no idea what to do. I know he's done that in other seasons, but my God, like we finally got a good freaking quarterback. We don't have to deal with mid guys like Justin Fields or frustrating guys like Mitch. This is someone who can actually play the game of football. He can actually do the stuff that is asked of him. And yet we're surrounding him with a bunch of clowns. And it was so bad this year, the Bears broke their rule of not firing head coaches during the season. Well, first, Shane Waldron, the offensive coordinator, got fired after that disastrous Patriots game. And then after that disastrous game on Thanksgiving, Eberflus was gone. Just a disaster. And yet, through all the chaos, Caleb looks like the future. The day after I originally recorded all this, the Bears officially hired Ben Johnson as their new head coach starting this next season. And to say this is a fantastic hire just is an understatement. How many times have the Bears ever gotten a top head coaching candidate? Not that I can think of. George McCaskey probably realized, my mom doesn't have that much time left on this planet. Let's actually get that top candidate that all the fans were screaming for. Because no doubt he was hearing all those sell the team chants. and that he did go up to fans during the season, and they were telling him stuff like, hire Ben Johnson. I'm just going to go over the coaches that Ben Johnson has brought in, and probably the best part, and this kind of mirrors Lovie Smith, the fact that Ben Johnson said it was nice to beat Matt LaFleur twice a year, which mirrors Lovie Smith's opening press conference when he was hired. I'm just going to paraphrase this. He said, the things we're going to do, beat Green Bay and go to the Super Bowl. It definitely mirrors Lovie, and Lovie is the best coach that the Bears have had in the time that I've been alive. Now, I was not born when Ditka was the coach, or the coach. There we go. Did it correctly. And Ben Johnson said he is going to play to Caleb Williams' strengths, which is very nice because someone like Matt Nagy tried to fit his offensive scheme into Mitch Trubisky, and it didn't work because he didn't know what the heck he had. Now, was Mitch great? No, but Nagy sure didn't make things any better. Anyways, I want to go over the coaches that Ben Johnson has assembled. Of course, head coach Ben Johnson, assistant head coach brought from the Lions, Antoine Randall. Okay. Offensive coordinator, Declan Doyle. All right. Quarterback coach, JT Barrett. Yeah. And of course, Antoine Randall is also the wide receiver coach, which he was very tough in Detroit, so I like this. Defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen. Dennis Allen might not have been a good head coach, but he is a damn good defensive coordinator, so I'm real excited. And defensive back coach / passing game coordinator, Al Harris. That's kind of hilarious to have a former Packer be a coach on the Bears. And special teams coordinator, Richard Hightower. So, should I be really excited now? I mean, come on. It's hope. It's actual hope, which people gotta say, Bears fans do have a lot of hope. And frankly, seeing the fact that ownership is actually hiring the people that the fans wanted, and these are actually coaches that seem like they know what they're doing, fantastic. I do hope that in the draft they address the offensive and defensive lines. There are a lot of people that want Ashton Genty, and I like Genty, but guys, let's get a freaking offensive line first, okay? That's how I see it. At least get that one guy from the Chiefs whose name escapes me. I'll probably put him up here. Get him in free agency. Build the trenches. We can't have Caleb running for his life. Although, when the season started, Tom Brady was sharing a story how he was almost a Bear before choosing Tampa, and suddenly I'm like, that explains why Ryan Pace traded for Nick Foles and took on his ridiculous contract from the Jaguars. Well, we couldn't get one Super Bowl winning quarterback, so let's go for another Super Bowl winning quarterback. Now, also during the season, there were rumors popping off of Jeff Bezos wanting to buy the Bears and even a potential trade to the 49ers to get Kyle Shanahan as a head coach. Bezos, his left hand is worth more than the McCaskies are overall, so I would not be opposed to that. He would definitely fund a stadium himself. And while he's at it, buy the Sox too. Build their stadium, or at least heavily renovate Rate Field. That's right, they changed the name. It was Guaranteed Rate, now it's just Rate Field, which you replace one letter and all of a sudden things turn for the worse. The Bulls, painfully mid. Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic still being here is still awkward after the team failed to trade either of them in the offseason, even though they were able to trade DeMar DeRozan. And then suddenly they were open to trading Patrick Williams, who was a complete bust, after giving him a 5-year, $90 million contract this past offseason. I don't need to explain why Patrick Williams hasn't earned any of that at all. He wasn't even a starter for FSU. He was a bench player, and they took him with a top 4 pick. My God, guys. And then they gave him $90 million. And then there's rumors of the Bulls being favorites to land Bradley Beal from the Suns. What the hell is Bradley Beal going to do? That is just another albatross of a contract that, of course, Jerry's stupid enough to take on. I'd rather have the Heat trade Jimmy Butler to the Suns and take on Bradley Beal's atrocious contract. Frankly, the TLDR, I want whatever Bulls management is smoking. And now the Blackhawks. Well, they fired Luke Richardson, so like the Bears, they fired their coach mid-season, except this is a very common practice there have been teams in the NHL where they fire their coach midseason and actually do well in the playoffs and maybe even win a cup. Now, there is at least some interesting pieces in the farm system. When Seth Jones got knocked out, did it affect anything? No, because that's how much he's contributed. Yeah, he's back, but still not worth 8 years, $76 million. We traded Alex DeBrincat, but can't trade Jones even when he's healthy. Now, I'm just going to say, we need more than just Connor Bedard. It really said a lot when the new coach who came from the Rockford Ice Hogs, Andrew Sorensen, had them practice passing. If a team can't pass the damn puck, then you gotta wonder what the hell Richardson was attempting to cook up. I was watching the Blackhawks and the Oilers at the UC. It was on TV. Second period, Hawks are up 3-1. Edmonton scores 2 goals before the period ends. And then in the third period, Edmonton takes a 4-3 lead. And the whole period, I'm just seeing the Hawks pass, and my God, this team can't even pass the damn puck. It seems like their first instinct is to pass it along the boards, not pass it across the ice, because Edmonton was doing that. They were actually working like, a team. The Hawks' first instinct, throw it along the boards. How about you actually pass it? Am I crazy? What the hell is this team doing? Are you trying to tank for another draft pick? Like, what is going on over there? Now, I acknowledge a lot of the problems stem from former GM Stan Bowman. He really set them far back. And this is a really difficult hole for any team to get out of, especially for Kyle from Chicago, the current GM. Stan focused on a lot of quick fixes for immediate playoff appearances, rather than just going on for a full-on rebuild that the team desperately needed. And the only way he was forced out was, unfortunately, the Kyle Beach situation, which really shed light on some stuff that it was really disgusting going on in the background. But my God, that was the only way to get him out? We couldn't fire him? I would have rather Stan have gotten fired than the only way he was going to get fired was a scandal. He should have just been fired, period. Although the more responsible thing definitely would have been firing him back in 2010 when that situation happened. Moving on to some more recent times, it was really embarrassing seeing the Hawks absolutely lay an egg in the Winter Classic, which viewership-wise is the worst. Last year's, between Seattle and Vegas, averaged just over 1 million viewers. This one, 922,000 viewers, making it the least watched Winter Classic of all time. Pathetic. Although part of that is also the NHL's fault. Okay, you don't want to air this so it has to compete with the college football playoff. So why have other games scheduled on there? Remember when the Winter Classic would go on and it was the only hockey game on? You flip through channels, you flip between college football, and then you'd flip to NBC or later on TNT, and you'd have the Winter Classic going on. Why do other games? It was already stupid enough to put it on New Year's Eve and instead of New Year's Day. But of course, the biggest problem is their current TV contract. They have a contract with ESPN/ABC and TNT. Obviously, during college football, they can't put it on ABC. So by default, it goes on TNT. They really should have just stuck with NBC because NBC is accessible to everyone, even with an antenna. TNT, you need cable. It's absolutely moronic with what the NHL's been doing. At least Stadium Series, that's going to be on ABC. But the Winter Classic is supposed to be bigger than Stadium Series. Although I had a comment on my TikTok video about the Blue Jackets and Red Wings jerseys, and this one guy contradicted himself saying, who cares where the game is being held, and then says they should play where the Columbus Crew plays, which is absolutely moronic. Why would the NHL settle for a 20,000 seat soccer stadium when they can fill up a 100,000 seat football stadium? This isn't like the Heritage Classic where the smaller stadiums are the only stadiums, because it's all CFL, and CFL capacity is always going to be smaller than NFL and college. This one, there actually is a gigantic stadium in Columbus, Ohio. So obviously they're going to go with that before they go with whatever the hell the Crew plays in. Although he also said Map-Free Stadium, which is their old stadium, which the NHL really wouldn't go for an obsolete venue, that's for sure. Now, when it comes to upcoming outdoor games, next year's Winter Classic is going to be Panthers-Rangers in Miami at Lone Depot Park, where the Marlins play. And Stadium Series is Lightning-Bruins in Tampa at Raymond James Stadium. There was a lot of controversy with that because, oh man, Florida teams, oh, what the hell, NHL? But it makes sense. For one, both Florida teams are actually better right now. Certainly a lot better than Blackhawks Blues. And second, the matchups make sense because what is something that Florida's also full of? New Yorkers and Bostonians. It's not just the Yankees and Red Sox. So have one of them attract New Yorkers and the other attract Bostonians, especially with both teams, the Panthers and Lightning, actually being good. I mean, for crying out loud, the Panthers just won a cup. The Lightning won 2 cups to start this decade, for Christ's sake. And frankly, I don't mind the Blackhawks not having an outdoor game for a long while, or at least until they become a playoff contender again, which who knows how long that'll be. Although, come to think of it, even when they were playoff contending, they only won 1 outdoor game, and that was 2014 Stadium Series. Maybe I'll go over that when I review jerseys. So, of course, I said Chicago this year had no luck. Well, there was still luck in the state. It's just you had to go 2 hours south to the University of Illinois. Illinois football won 10 games this year. That is an accomplishment for what's not only historically a basketball school, but also a program that had been rebuilding since 2016. And this year, it finally all came together when Illinois won the Citrus Bowl against South Carolina and started some beef with them, which is hilarious. And also seeing come bowl time, most Big Ten teams would completely fold. But this year, it's the SEC, and this was just another one. And my NIU Huskies beat Fresno State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, and I absolutely loved how they ended. The NIU coach got a shower of French fries, and Illinois' coach had a shower of Cheez-Its, because that's the sponsors. I did get to witness some of the magic that Illinois had this year. One of them, so Illinois-Rutgers was on Peacocks. I don't have Peacock, so I couldn't watch it, but I did catch the last 35 seconds on the radio. Illinois and Rutgers were going back and forth, and Illinois was driving to try to win the game. There was a lot of wind blowing. 4th down, Illinois kicks a field goal, but then Rutgers calls timeout, so the kick doesn't count, which didn't matter because the guy missed it. So Illinois decides to put the offense back out, and Will Altmaier throws a touchdown. That was just mind-blowing. Oh my God, thank you, Illinois, for at least giving me some hope during the sports year of 2024. Now, I brought up NIU. Recently, they said that they are becoming a Mountain West team for just football starting in 2026, moving away from the MAC, which means no more MACtion. I don't like it. I think they might be overmatched. I know Mountain West isn't the biggest powerhouse, but there's the saying to play to your strength. The MAC was always NIU's strength. I don't know how they're going to do in the Mountain West. I think it's going to be a disaster in the first year. We'll have to wait and see. Now, this year was the first year of the 12-team college football playoff. What a waste. There was no reason to have 12 teams. 8 teams, fine. Because 9 through 12 stood no chance. What was the point of 12? Oh wait, that's right, you're overcompensating because last season you screwed over Florida State in favor of Alabama, and FSU threw a fit about it. You said that we didn't choose Florida State because Jordan Travis was injured and wasn't going to be able to play in whatever bowl it would be. And yet this year, Carson Beck was hurt, and Georgia still easily made the college football playoff. I'm old enough to remember when people complained about the BCS rankings and how, oh man, a computer's ranking them? Oh, it's so dumb, they should have humans doing it. Well, we have humans doing ranking now, and it's still dumb as hell. It makes you wonder how much some of these schools are paying the committee to do whatever the hell their bidding is. The only one of the first round of the college football playoff I watched was Indiana Notre Dame, and both teams were night and day. Notre Dame came to play. Indiana looked really freaking wimpy. It's like, this is a playoff team? On what planet? So, 12-team playoff, stupid, and they're going to expand it, which is even stupider. This isn't college basketball, okay, guys? Knock it off. Now, I want to close this out with some uniform news. The Red Sox announced they are dumping the blue road alternate and replacing that slot with their yellow City Connect, but that's not going to be a City Connect anymore because they're going to bring in a new City Connect this year, which from what I've heard is supposed to be green and reference the Green Monster, which that's fine, but I know I have at least one Boston fan watching these. What the hell is the appeal of that Savannah Bananas looking jersey? Now, I know it's meant to reference Patriot Day and the Boston Marathon, but light blue and yellow is this UCLA? That should just be dropped. Keep the blue jersey. What's Boston smoking? Now, this was something I found interesting. If you watched last year's UFL season, the spring football that was a merger of the XFL and the USFL, every single team had a U.S. Army sponsor patch. The Army did a patch deal with the league and The Rock by extension. The Army spent $11 million to put that patch on those jerseys, which ended with 0 new recruits, and the military wanting at least half of the money back and trying to recoup $6 million from the UFL and The Rock. So one of the other issues was apparently The Rock failed to make a sufficient number of Army-related posts on social media because the Army viewed his social media posts as having at least a value of $1 million and was expecting 5 posts from The Rock, but only got 2. Now, I don't want to get political at all. This is not my job to. But with stuff going on overseas, it was going to be tough to sell anyone on joining the Army. Probably the best news for this year was that New Era NHL hats came back to general retail after only being available at team shops for a few years at this point. And I certainly want to get some. I've been eyeing the Kansas City Scouts New Era hat. That would be cool. And maybe even Nordiques and Whalers. We'll see. Although something that would be very nice to see, at the very least, would be New Era doing the Stanley Cup hats. Now, after the Panthers won, my dad texted me that the Panthers Stanley Cup hats looked like something out of a gas station. And absolutely, it's just a plain hat with what's obviously a patch sewn onto it. When it was Reebok doing these hats, they were definitely a lot more creative and a lot more eye-catching. I'm not exactly one to buy championship hats even when my teams win, but my God, this doesn't help it. Ugh. Now, I want to close with this, and this was something that I saw some months ago. A lot of people like to bring up jersey quality and how it's gone down, and one of the things that people bring up are the limited Nike NFL jerseys switching from stitched to heat pressed or heat sealed last year, much like NBA Swingmans and Nike MLB replicas, and there's been a lot of people complaining about that. Well, I want to go down a tier to the NFL replica jerseys that are screen printed. Now, I don't have pictures of this, and I'll explain why. So, of course, I work at the airport, and when I was getting lunch, I saw a kid wearing a Justin Jefferson throwback jersey. There you go. There's the answer as to why I didn't take any pictures, because taking pictures of random kids in public, that's kind of weird, don't you think? And really freaking creepy. But, so you'll have to take my word for it. So he had a Justin Jefferson throwback jersey, and the graphics were flaking off badly. There was so much of the white on the 18 just gone. Now, I don't know how often the kid had the jersey washed and dried. Obviously, don't ever put a jersey in the dryer. Just let it hang to dry. But how bad is this? And I also went on Facebook Marketplace and saw a Brian Urlacher 1936 throwback with faded numbers. And that's an older jersey. That design's been around since 2019. Whereas the Jefferson jersey, that design has only been around since 2023. So what the hell, Nike? Are you using cheaper ink to do screen printing or vinyl? Whatever the heck it's made out of? Someone will correct me. I've had screen printed graphics flake on me. Reebok jerseys, I've had graphics fade away on those, but of course I had them redone a few years back. Is the quality of the screen printed jerseys going down too? I'm not sure. Now, I hope you all enjoyed. I'll probably get some more videos done when I can, but until then, be sure to leave a comment, follow me on Twitter, follow me on TikTok, subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you all later.